Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, politics, culture, movies, you name it. We're talking about it right here, all Second Amendment, all the time on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share this program, whether you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube. Also, feel free, if you just want to listen to us, check us out at Apple Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Google Podcast, and Spotify, multiple different places where you can listen to the audio version of Coffee with Craig, and encourage your friends to do the same. Also, make it a point, go to fpcgear.com, fpcgear.com. It is a very cool place where you can go and you can find T-shirts, you can find hoodies, you can find coffee mugs, all things to help you promote your support of the Second Amendment while actually supporting the Second Amendment, because every dollar that you spend there goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. fpcgear.com. Support the Second Amendment and look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. Now, here we are. New Year's going to be coming around, and in multiple places there will likely be new laws that will be starting to take effect relating to the Second Amendment and other things, but also in relating to the Second Amendment. But one of the things that's actually become quite interesting is this direction where people are going when it comes to the issue of compliance with the law. This phenomenon that we're seeing, that normal law-abiding citizens are deciding that they are simply not going to, they're just going to ignore the law. There was Prop 63 was a bill that passed here in the state of California, and I remember there was the head of the Assistant District Attorneys Association was testifying, and she basically said that, if the government keeps passing laws that are nonsensical, that they believe are just stupid laws. Not my word, not hers, but in essence, that's what she said. I'm paraphrasing. That eventually what you're going to do is you're going to breed contempt for government and noncompliance because people are simply going to ignore the law. Well, guess what's starting to happen in the city of Boulder? Boulder, Colorado, they actually passed an assault weapons ban, a ban dealing with semi-automatic centerfire rifles, as well as magazines, firearms that have magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Not only in Boulder have they decided the first thing that they decided was that they were going to sue. And here's a video clip that I found of when they were talking about suing. And I want you to watch this and also kind of give you an idea of where the people of Boulder are coming from on this particular measure.
It's not just about the Second Amendment. It's about our First Amendment rights to assemble, for gun owners to be able to say, I've got this gun and I'm going to the range and I'm using it with others. It's about the Fourth Amendment. It's about our right for privacy. It's about taking a property, saying you need to give up what you own. You can't buy anymore.
The ordinance also requires assault weapon owners who have been grandfathered in to register their weapons with police by the end of the year. If they fail to comply, they would have to turn the weapons in.
A lot of laws like this are difficult to enforce because it's really the law ends up targeting folks that are law-abiding.
Legal expert Douglas Richards says it will also be tough to police.
How does law enforcement start enforcing a law like this? I mean, what do they kick in doors and check to see if everybody has a firearm or something that falls within this ban?
Boulder police wouldn't comment on how they plan to enforce the law. They say they're still figuring that out. Richards say the lawsuit could stand a chance to win if it's able to prove the ordinance is a case of government overreach.
Municipalities are free to pass laws and ordinances that they feel are going to protect their citizens, but a municipality or a city or a county cannot pass a law or an ordinance that's going to violate your state or federal constitutional rights.
So what they're noting here is, once again, they see this beyond just the Second Amendment. They see this as a violation of putting forth a law that violates your rights in many different areas. And so in many cases, what they're starting to find is people are simply not complying. In fact, in the city of Boulder, they've had less than 100 people have actually come forward and registered their quote-unquote assault weapons. less than 100 in a city the size of Boulder. And here's what's happening. Folks are simply deciding that, like he was saying, this is almost impossible to enforce because you're in essence criminalizing otherwise law-abiding citizens. So these are people that 9 times out of 10 law enforcement is not going to have any contact with. They're not going to be going in. They're not going to be able to go and kick in doors. It's not like they're going to know what who's got these things. We're going to start going after them. No, that's what they want the registration for. See, once they get them to register it, well, then they know exactly where to go. So then that is how you enforce this law because they now have registered. So they know exactly where to go. It's funny. A guy I knew who was running for Congress, he had actually immigrated here from the Soviet Union, from Russia at the time. And what he had noted was when the communists came in to Russia, they came in and the first thing that they did was they said, we need to know who has firearms. And it's, for the good of the party. Then they said, okay, once they knew who had them, then they said, we need to now confiscate those firearms for the good of the party. And then they said, now we need to confiscate your private property. We need to confiscate your land. We need to confiscate your business for the good of the party. See, that's what they do. That's the reason why once you disarm a citizenry. So people are basically, once again, otherwise law-abiding citizens are simply deciding we shall not comply. That's what's happening in the city of Boulder. People have decided that, you know what? Screw them. No, we're not going to come and register our firearms. We're not going to tell you. We're not going to tell you what we've got. We're not going to tell you. We're just not going to do it because because it is a stupid law. Now, but they're not the only ones. In New Jersey, back in February, when they banned put in their bump stock bans, interesting thing happened. They got one, maybe 2 bump stocks were turned in. In other words, people in the entire state, people were basically saying, yeah, no, I'm even if I have a bump stock, I'm not turning it in because you are not going to just take away my property. They're saying, sorry, I've violated no law by owning this. I've violated no law with this bump stock. So yeah, no, I'm not going to turn it in. Screw you. Right? But once again, that's not the only place where this is occurring. Take in New York. And in New York, with the SAFE Act, they are reporting massive non-compliance with either registering or with the magazine capacity. They are literally finding that just basically people are flat out ignoring the SAFE Act. They're just ignoring it because they're saying our rights and our personal defense is more important, is more relevant, quite frankly, than your right to feel safe. It's not really about a right to feel safe. We all know when it comes to government, it's more about a right to take away. It's more about a right to control you. And they know that if you have no means of self-defense, then they know that they have the ability to control you. So in New York, it's happening. In California, with the magazine ban. Now, keep in mind, there's been a magazine ban in place in the state of California since 91. I mean, it's been a long time. The magazine ban, the magazine ban's been in place in California, and yet California is awash in magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Because once again, people are saying this is stupid. No, you are not going to take away my lawfully purchased property. No, you are not going to. When I know that a criminal can walk in my house with a 30-round magazine or a 100-round drum, you are not going to limit me to 10 rounds. That's what once again, what law-abiding citizens are saying. Let me clarify. Otherwise, law-abiding citizens are saying, no, this is a stupid law. I will not comply with it. And then there's the recent bullet button ban here in the state of California. We estimate there's basically probably about 3% compliance, meaning of all of the firearms, of all the semi-automatic centerfire rifles that had bullet buttons that were purchased in the last few years. I mean, we're talking well over 1 million. About less than 60,000 were actually registered or attempted to register? What happened to the rest of them? Did they all go? Did everyone decide that they're going to go featureless? Did everyone decide that that they're going to use one of the workarounds? Or are some people just telling the government, screw you? Because see, here's the thing, folks. They're not going. Let me just say this before we get into this whole thing. Let me just say this: I'm not advocating for non-compliance. I understand if that's what you choose to do. Some of us are, who are in particular in this thing, are a little bit kind of high profile. I comply with the law because, well, I know that if there's someone that they have if they have a chance to go after someone like me, they will. So anyway, but I'm not advocating for it. But one of the things that you got to understand that I try to explain to some of these lawmakers is that most of these laws are unenforceable unless you are going to go door to door, knocking on people's doors and start confiscating firearms and start searching their homes. I mean, think about it. That's one of the things that's starting to happen with this assault weapon registry. You send pictures of your firearm, it's got something kind of hinky, and they send agents out to your home or to your place of business to inspect your firearm and possibly confiscate it. That's the only way that they can enforce this. Otherwise, what winds up happening is that they wind up enforcing it as you have casual encounters with law enforcement. Now, the interesting thing about that is that now we're talking about selective enforcement. We're talking about the idea that only certain people are going to have this enforced against them. We're talking about people who tend to have more interactions with law enforcement. Low-income communities are going to wind up having this law enforced against them even more. Young black and brown men are going to wind up having this law enforced against them even more. Not saying that they're trying to be racist, but I'm just saying that's who winds up having these casual interactions with law enforcement more than that's who does it the most. So that's one thing, is understand that compliance. Enforcement is going to be an issue, and that's why people are saying, fine. Whatever. Now, with that, let me just be real with you. Those of you who decide that you are not going to comply, I appreciate your spirit. I am down with that. I hear what you're saying. But understand and make sure that if you are not going to comply, that you fully understand what that means and what the legal ramifications of noncompliance are. Because understand that it doesn't just affect you. If you are married, it affects your spouse. If you have children, it affects your children, because you could wind up doing jail time. You could wind up having to spend money you don't have on an attorney, right? You could wind up going through a whole bunch of stuff. And if you're lucky, all that will happen to you is your firearms will be confiscated and you'll lose hundreds, if not thousands. I'm guessing if you're watching this, I'm going to guess into the thousands of dollars in your private property could potentially wind up being gone. I'm just saying. So know those ramifications. Know what happens if you have a felony conviction on your record and how that might impact you. Know and understand that. So if you're going to not comply, then at least you know what you're getting yourself into. That's just one point that I want to make. The other thing is, and I get, some of y'all think that the internet is all anonymous and you're going to write in the comments on all these, I'm not going to comply, come and take them, yada, yada, yada. Understand this also. Our allies are not the only ones that pay attention to what goes on here. They're not the only ones watching. I know for a fact there are people at California DOJ that watch Coffee with Craig. I know it. All right. But I say that to tell you that when you decide that's what you're going to write, you put a nice big target on yourself. I'm just warning you. Look, because I care about y'all. I mean, you guys are the reason that Coffee with Craig and the Firearms Policy Coalition, you're the reason that we exist. We can't do what we do. We don't do what we do without you. So, but we want to make sure, just like we make sure that California legislators, just like we make sure when we go and we talk to them, that they understand that, or at least that we try to inform them about all the consequences of the stupid laws that they try to pass. We want them to understand the ramifications of that. I also want you to understand the ramifications of the decisions that you make, whether it's compliance or register or choosing to go ahead and register your firearms, whatever it is. We want to make sure you understand the ramifications of either compliance with California law or federal law or whatever state you're in, and also understand the consequences of non-compliance so that you can make an informed decision. But understand this, and for those who are watching this who are not of the pro-Second Amendment persuasion, understand that, yes, non-compliance is a thing. And understand that the more laws you pass, the more people are not going to comply. The more laws you pass violating our free speech rights, violating our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, violating our private property rights, violating our due process rights, violating just about every single right that we have. Just as you break the Constitution and separation of powers in order to pass things like bump stock bans, understand or to redefine firearms and firearm parts, to remake up terms and ignore the legal process in order to take away our rights, understand that people are simply not going to comply. And on top of not complying, people are going to get pissed off. And getting pissed off, well, anyway, I'll let you figure it out from there. But understand that, yes, non-compliance, I shall not comply. Yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. I very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you guys liking and sharing this program, telling others about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.